Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're beginning our study today of the Old Testament prophet Habakkuk and his book. Which he's one of the 12 minor prophets. And what we're going to do today is talk about the time of the writing and set the historical stage, the historical context for this wonderful little book. Just 3 chapters, but amazing. Um, the minor prophets are called minor not because of their lack of importance, but because they wrote short books. Some of them are not so short. Hosea, Amos, Zechariah, not quite so short, but not nearly so long as Isaiah, Jeremiah, or Ezekiel, the major writing prophets. Habakkuk is an underappreciated book, I think. We don't study it much. Maybe give it a week in a 12-week, 13-week course on the minor prophets or something like that. So I'm happy to spend some time in the book because the book is just a gem. It's a jewel. It's just amazing. It's everything. It's poetry. It's theodicy. It is prophecy. It is praise. It's complaint. It's deeply theological, and it's lyrical. It's just everything the book of Habakkuk is, and it's not really like any of the other minor prophets or major prophets because it is a direct dialogue between the prophet and God and Yahweh. So we'll talk more about that next time. But let's talk about when the book of Habakkuk was written. It's clear that the book of Habakkuk was written in the decades before the Babylonian captivity, the final Babylonian captivity. So he is a pre-exilic prophet. So let's talk about the Babylonian captivity, the second third captivity, but the second major captivity that we deal with in the Bible. So we have the enslavement in Egypt. That's not really, it is a captivity, but they weren't hauled off. They went voluntarily to Egypt, and then their situation changed there. The northern kingdom was carried off into Assyrian captivity, and those 10 tribes basically were dispersed. And members of those tribes do show up later on in history in the Bible. Anna was of the tribe of Asher in Luke chapter 2. But they basically, they don't stay together as a people. However, in Babylonian captivity, the Jews do. And we'll talk more about what happened during Babylonian captivity in just a moment. But if you'll recall, after following the death of Solomon and the reign of his son Rehoboam, that the country fractured again into two different groups, the 10 tribes to the north and the 2 tribes to the south. After the death of Saul, it took a while for David to rule over all of Israel. And there were some years there where the northern tribes did not recognize David as king. And so there's already a difference between the 10 northern tribes and the 2 southern tribes of Judah and Benjamin. Um, so the northern tribes have already been carried away into Syrian captivity uh, when Habakkuk is being written. The 2 southern tribes, Judah and Benjamin, survive. But this is a time of great upheaval among superpowers. Egypt, the perpetual superpower, Assyria had dominated the earth for a long time. Babylon, is ascending. The Lord himself took out the Assyrian Empire during Sennacherib's invasion when they got to the gates of the city of Jerusalem and they blasphemed God. And in one night, an angel of God killed 185,000 of the 200,000 or so troops that they brought with them. And from then on, the Assyrian Empire was in its last days, on its last legs. And in 612 BC, the Babylonians defeated the Assyrians at the Battle of Carchemish. Egypt had come to Assyria's aid, not that they were friends so much, but to try to balance out growing Babylonian power. And that's when Josiah died, trying to stop Pharaoh Shishak, from joining the Assyrians, because he had allied himself with the Babylonians. In 611, the southern kingdom becomes a vassal state of Babylon. In other words, they're paying tribute and they're doing what they're told, basically, but they don't really. Um, and therefore, the Babylonians come and take the city of Jerusalem and haul some people away, like the prophet Ezekiel, into captivity. But they don't destroy the city yet, and they put in place their own king. And then in 586 BC, 10 years later, the Babylonians, still tired of the intransigence of the Jews, under Nebuchadnezzar's leadership, bring an army and they destroy the city of Jerusalem and haul the population away into captivity. So, this book is about the coming power, the growing power of Babylon. And the only question is it written before or after the Battle of Carchemish in 612? Is the rise of Babylon something that is on the horizon or something that's already starting to happen? But somewhere around there, around 30 years or so, 20, 30 years or so before the final Babylonian captivity is when Habakkuk is writing, and he's writing about that captivity and he's putting it in context. And that's what we'll talk about next time. So thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.